You're about to listen to the Weekly Business Hour podcast. I am Rick Schissler, Silver Fox Advisor, your host for the show. The show is broadcast live each Monday, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. on irlonestar.com. You can reach me on my Facebook page, The Weekly Business Hour, or by email at rick@irlonestar.com. The Weekly Business Hour is sponsored by Patricia Cooper Insurance Agency, Taylorized PR, Schooley Mitchell with Jerry Polio, and the Silver Fox Advisors. Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoy the program.
Good morning, and welcome to the Lone Star Weekly Business Hour. Your host, Rick Schissler, is a Silver Fox Advisor who personally has over 40 years of experience as a serial entrepreneur. So sit back, pull out your pad and pencil, and get ready to take notes as we join Rick Schissler in his Lone Star Weekly Business Hour.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us this week for the week edition of the Weekly Business Hour. This is Rick Schissler, your Silver Fox Advisor and the host of the Weekly Business Hour. Got a question for you to start off this morning. Do you, or your business need a mentor? What's the definition of a mentor? One, an experienced and trusted advisor. Some synonyms for mentor are advisor, guide, my favorite, guru, counselor, and consultant. Do you need a mentor in your business? Do you need someone to help you, to offer unvarnished information, to give you the truth, to help you grow your business? We all need somebody to talk to. And I want to lead into that thanks to the Silver Fox Advisors for being our show sponsor. If you and your business need a mentor or advisor to help move your business forward, then learn more about the Silver Fox Advisors at silverfox.org, or you can contact me direct here at the station, rick@irlonestar.com. Another question, why do people listen to the Weekly Business Hour? If you're a business owner, manager, or you're considering starting your own business, then you're in the right place, because the Weekly Business Hour is where Montgomery County comes to talk about the latest in business news, ideas to improve your business, and to hear from some of our own local business leaders on how they have found success right here in Montgomery County. If you're ready to do business, then let's get this week started. First, I want to wish all our listeners Merry Christmas and a Happy Holidays. We only have 4 days left until the holidays, and I hope you and your business are ready. I encourage you, as I did last week, to recheck your inventory levels, delivery schedules, and time off requests. Make sure your business is prepared to do business right through the holidays. And remember, if you have a question or a thought during the show or even after the show, please send me an email. It's rick@irlonestar.com. Well, now that we're started, let's first check in with Dick and see what's on tap for Lone Star this coming week.
I just want to update all the listeners our Christmas schedule. We will be out of the studio on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, but we'll be back on Monday, the following Monday after this weekend. Hope everyone has a safe holiday, especially those who listened last week to our special broadcast of the primary candidate forum. We're going to be posting that later tonight in each individual sections of each candidate. That way it's easier. You can listen to what you're trying to listen to instead of listening to all the 3 hours of the program trying to search for the candidate you're trying to listen to. So I just want to let your listeners know that if they're interested in the local politics scene, that's definitely something you want to check out.
Well, thanks, Dick, and I would encourage all of you. We need to be interested in the local political scene for the sake of our business, as well as our personal interest, our families, and the future of our county. I would encourage you to check these out. I wish everyone would do it, because then you would be a more informed voter and vote for the candidates to support the positions that you have. Well, let's talk about a little local news. One of the things that's big in the news these days around Montgomery County, in fact, around this entire area of the Gulf Coast, is water. If you don't know it, water is becoming a scarce resource. And we as business people, particularly if you're in manufacturing type business where you might use water a little more than a restroom or a place to wash your hands, really need to stay on top of things. And one of the ways to do that is to stay in touch with what's going on at the Lone Star Groundwater Conservation District. That's part of the water management set up here in Montgomery County that we have. These are the folks that hopefully will make sure that we don't run out of water. They have to make some tough decisions, too. I did some reading over the weekend, looked at their website, and there's a lot of challenges because, frankly, there's more demand for water in Montgomery County than we have water available based on projections that have been made by the LSGCD of being available. We also have a second thing happening here in Montgomery County as well as other surrounding counties is because the fact that we're using the groundwater faster than it's being replenished, we're having to make a change over to surface water. The San Jacinto River Authority and others are involved in that. So I would encourage you to stay in touch with what's happening at Lone Star Groundwater Conservation District. Recently, their board of directors meeting back earlier this month on the 9th approved a number of amendments to its rules and regulatory plan, and it's important that you understand that they will constantly be updating. They seem to be very vigilant. Again, some of the rules are not popular with some of us, but we're given a chance to advocate and be part of those meetings, and I would encourage you to do so. Some of them apply to individual landowners, such as water wells. My wife and I are building a new home, and if we decided to put a well in, I saw the information we need to provide and the fact that they do offer or charge a fee, I should say, for that well to collect money to help make the improvements necessary to replace some of that groundwater that we're lacking. So stay in touch with LSGCD. And by the way, their next board meeting, if you have an interest, is at 10 a.m. on January 12th. Again, I encourage you, put their website in your favorites and from time to time keep an eye on it. It's at www.lonestargcd.org. Next item in business, Dick mentioned we had a candidates forum this past week right next door at the Crichton Theater. And it was during the course of this debate or forum, and there were political offices all the way from constables to Congress to House of Representatives. And Congressman Brady, who represents much of Montgomery County, was available by phone, and also Mr. McMichael, who is running for that seat. And it's interesting. I think this is an important election for all of us. I realize the national situation seems far away, but I think it's important that we be aware of that. Again, I always encourage, and some people get bored with it, but I always encourage people to stay in touch. You don't have to run for political office. You don't have to come out and wave a flag, but you need to be aware of what people are talking about, if nothing else, so that when you go vote, you know what you're voting for. But these forums are taking place early next year in the Woodlands and other places. Be aware of them, and if you get a chance, attend. The forum that was here was broadcast live by this radio station and will be available later on a podcast, so you can catch up with things even though you weren't able to listen live that night. Final item of business I'd like to touch on, and this is starting to look like a very important thing to do, and that's the hiring. Hiring is becoming more challenging. They tell us we have a low unemployment rate, but the economy itself is somewhat stalled. But the bottom line, it's never easy to hire good people. And one of the things that's coming up in January is at the Lone Star Convention and Expo Center is a job fair. This is the annual job fair that's sponsored by the Chamber of Commerce here in Conroe and a number of other entities. And it's a great opportunity to come out. If your company hires or needs 2 or more people, it would be my encouragement that you consider having a booth and talk to the people that turn out looking for jobs. Spread the word about your company. Make a note. If you're interested, booth reservation forms are available. This job fair is Tuesday, January 26th from 1 to 6 at the Lone Star Convention and Expo Center. And if you happen to be listening and looking for a job, it's a great place to go. A lot of large, medium-sized, and even small businesses are represented at this, and I would encourage you to attend if you need to hire folks, and again, or if you're looking for someone. Well, something I wanted to point out as we move through, I try to give you some quick tips, and as we close out this segment, a quick tip I wanted to pass along. You may have heard this before, but it's so critical, and this time of year really kind of brings it into focus. And that is the idea that we try to do too much ourselves. And what I'm speaking to, or who I'm really speaking to, is those that own their own business, the small business people out there, entrepreneurs, whatever name you want to use. You try to do it all, especially when you start up. As my dad used to say, you try to wear many hats. And that's okay. A lot of times we do that because we don't have the money, or we perceive we don't have the money. And at the end of the day, you've got to be so careful, because if you try to handle tasks, you procrastinate in hiring people to assume those tasks, or at the very least outsourcing certain tasks, then it's going to blow up in your face. I mean, you're losing ground. That's one of the reasons people happen to have mentors, to ask them, when is time for me to hire that first employee, or time to hire a controller in larger businesses, and on, to help evaluate when the right time is. And one other tip that comes out of this conversation is we try to avoid paying the amount of money it's necessary to hire the quality people. And that is a mistake that I have seen made over and over and over. Whenever you hire anybody, pay them right. Pay them so that you get a quality individual. It's not the place to save or cut cost when you're hiring people. People make your business. So I encourage you, if you're not doing it, then do it now. And give up on the idea that if you want it done right, do it yourself. If you're intending to grow your business, then you need to open yourself up to hiring people and develop your skill set through a mentor or through attending classes online and at Lone Star College. There's lots of resources out there that will help educate you and make you a better individual to hire in your own HR department, so to speak. So those are my tips and news to get us started today. We're going to take a short break now, ladies and gentlemen. And when we come back, I think we're going to have an extremely interesting guest. I know we are. He's in the studio already. Paul Marcus will be joining us from Affordable Searches. So please stay with us, and we'll see you on the other side.
Are you paying too much for your personal or business insurance? Patricia Cooper Insurance on FM 1488 and Tamina Road is an independent agency that can shop multiple carriers to find the best rates and coverages to fit your specific needs. Call us today at 281-356-9955 and let us go to work for you. Patricia Cooper Insurance, where our customers are treated like family.
Tailorized PR works exclusively to get your business noticed. Public relations is how others perceive you and your company. By tailorizing the marketing strategy exclusively to your business, your story is told. Tailorized PR services include networking, social media, blogs, press releases, public appearances, and event planning. To learn about Tailorized PR, call Margie Taylor at 936-828-6881 or visit the website at tailorizedpr.com. My business is tailored to yours.
I'm Lieutenant Bob Berry with the Conroe Police Department, reminding you that texting and talking on the phone while driving are not only dangerous, but also illegal in school zones and other posted areas. Drive safely and alert.
Running a business is hard. Pressure to maximize profits and minimize loss continue to grow. Schooley Mitchell of Houston can help. Their independent consultants will ensure you are receiving the best communications and credit card processing services at the best prices. Most importantly, their services are completely risk-free. If they don't find savings for you, there is no fee. Contact Schooley Mitchell of Houston today to find out. Call 832-314-1815 or visit their website at schooleymitchell.com/JM Polio.
Are you planning on growing, expanding, or possibly selling your business? All of these business opportunities require developing strategies and setting goals in order to achieve success. Providing specialized consulting in these and other key business decisions is what Silver Fox Advisors have been doing since 1986. Let us help you today. Call us at 713-343-3718. It might be the most profitable call that you ever make.
SPCA PetSnap of Montgomery County is a 501c3 all-volunteer-based rescue and adoption organization with a no-kill policy for healthy and adoptable animals. Our goals are fourfold: to rescue and rehabilitate homeless animals, to provide a safe haven for the animals until a suitable adoption or foster care home is found or until they are reunited with their owner, to educate the public about the great need to reduce pet population, which includes the importance of having their pets spayed and neutered, and to further the cause for humane and responsible pet ownership, and to provide a low-cost spay-neuter clinic for people who are unable to afford to spay or neuter their pets otherwise. SPCA PetSnap of Montgomery County encourages you to think adoption first. You can contact us at www.spcaofmc.com.
Welcome back. You are listening to the Weekly Business Hour, and this is Rick Schissler, your Silver Fox advisor and host. And as promised, we have Paul Marcus, the owner of Affordable Searches, joining us today in the studio. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you, Rick.
Well, I really appreciate you coming out and talking to us today. I think you represent an area that many, many businesses just don't pay enough attention to, and that's background checks.
Right. And doing the right background checks.
Right, and that's something that you and I have, you've taught me something about that. I've been in HR back in my career working for larger companies, done a lot of interviewing, background checking, and I've learned a lot just visiting with you back and forth, looking at your website and some of the great materials, educational materials you provided. But, Paul, before we get into that, I always ask my guests to kind of tell our listeners who they are. What is your business background?
Well, I'm Paul Marcus, and my business background was both in sales and in nonprofits, and I work for the county. That's how I got my start doing background checks. I worked for Harris County, and at that time, I was able to access the FBI database, and I enjoyed doing these background checks. So I put aside my sales career, and then once I got laid off my last nonprofit job, I decided to go into a background screening business, and I'm lucky. I found something I really love to do.
Well, you know, it's interesting how you got there, because and that's always a great way, in my opinion, to start a business. Is you've had the experience, you've seen what it's like, you've worked in it for someone else, in this case Harris County, and then you were able to kind of say, okay, it's time. I got laid off here. I need an opportunity. I'm going to go do this. So
right.
that's a good story, the one I always like to hear from people. Let me ask you that basic question. Why does an employer need to perform a background check?
Well, there's a couple reasons. Number one, every time you have to hire a new employee, from replacing an old employee who did not work out, the cost could be anywhere $3,000 to $7,000 just in the hiring process. If you bring the wrong employee in, you can have employee problems and morale problems. And also, your reputation can take a big hit, because that's out in the papers, social media now. Even if it's a franchise and you have nothing to do with that hiring, the other franchise owners could take a hit. And number 4 is negligent hiring lawsuits, which means if you don't do your proper due diligence and check everywhere you need to check and show that you've done it, you could be sued. And I've seen instances where companies have gotten anywhere from $750,000 to $40 million because of a negligent hiring lawsuit. So I say that's why you have to do a good, complete background check.
Well, let's take a second and kind of walk back through those, because, that's something, because I have a law background, legal background, that I'm concerned about, the lawsuits, the negligent hiring. And I have found that most business owners don't really understand that. In other words, if they're in a business or a nonprofit that has a lot of contact with the public, they see that typically. But really any business, if you have an employee that you hire, in a store even, and they do something that could have been found in a background check that causes harm to a customer or a fellow employee, then you basically could face a negligent hiring suit. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. And especially a lot of the negligent hiring lawsuits have to do with home health and nursing and someone coming into your home, or it could be a service industry. So,
right, I would expect in those, but my warning is to that really any business, manufacturing business, and you've got people working on a line, building a product, anywhere that you don't check people out, you can subject yourself to negligent hiring.
Right, because the other people in that facility could have some problems with this person and something happens, and then all of a sudden the company's sued because the company is responsible for making sure things are safe there.
And the third one I think you mentioned, kind of walking back up the list, was the impact on your reputation, your business reputation.
Right.
Obviously, if you have a situation occur that's serious enough, say, to make the press or word gets around, you're going to lose potentially some customers.
Absolutely.
You're not going to be a place that certain people are going to work.
Right.
And in my experience, again, the best people are the ones that pay attention to that. They want to work in a safe environment. They don't want to be a part of something. So, I mean, that's a huge penalty.
Yes.
Same thing again. Then morale. You mentioned morale. Fellow employees. Something happens that the word gets out that, hey, they didn't check this guy out, and he came in here and he did this and that, whatever, and, why am I working here? And again, it'll be the best employees.
Right.
That'll be the ones that'll be typically, if I could use the word, most sensitive, right?
Right, yeah. And like I said before, it can get into the newspapers, and that can doom a company big time.
Yeah.
It could really doom them. And it's happened.
Well, that's one of the things in some of the materials you provided me when you talk about dooming a company, and it was kind of interesting. Apparently, back when ADP did a study and looked into it, and this was amazing to me. In their research, they found that 30% of all business failures were due to employee theft and related forms of dishonesty, which you would hope would get picked up in a background check if someone had committed a crime before and been picked up. But 30% of the business failures, which I would be willing to guess those were primarily small businesses that couldn't weather the storm.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you have to check them. You really have to be careful in checking them because you don't want to be one of those 30%.
And the first thing you mentioned, and that's the one I'm always sensitive to for other reasons, is employee turnover, or the fact that you hire the wrong people and you've got to constantly have this churn. And, that is a thing that I was taught very early. I was blessed to attend a class that had some statistics, and I'm going back 30-some years ago. But the idea has never changed. When I hire someone and then for whatever reason they don't work out, then according to the statistic in the document that you gave me, it's equal to about 150% of annual salary.
Right, yeah.
That it costs me to go back in that hiring process. That's a point sometimes I have a hard time getting across to my clients. Say, you hire the person, you train them 6 months, a year, and I'm primarily talking about people that have to be let go for reasons that could have been discovered in the beginning, right?
Right.
I mean, if we have someone who leaves, moves, right. But it still cost us that 150% of annual salary to hire that new person, train them, and start all over.
It is. It really is a problem. And we can find, most of the time, we can find records on people if they do have records. But here's something else, too. We always have to follow the law of the Fair Credit Reporting Act. So even though we may find something, we may not be able to report it. So
that's interesting, too. And that kind of leads into my next question. What kind of information is legally available through a proper personal background check?
Well, you can, if you're properly licensed and you have a proper business, you can go to the courthouse right back here and look at the public terminal and check their name to see if they have anything. You can go online and order from a company that would provide you with, quote unquote, a national database, which isn't national. And you can go online and get federal criminal records. So it's all there online that you can access. And you can access other information. Being a private investigator, I have reports I can access on people when I check them out, assets, liabilities, what properties they own, such as that. So that's another search. There's a lot of information these days that you can access.
But you have to know where to look.
You have to know where to look, and you have to know, especially in background checks, you have to know what everything means. Because someone can say they found a disruptive behavior in North Carolina. What does that mean? You have to look to see, has that been dismissed or has it been amended down? So you have to know where to look, actually, and you have to know what you're looking for and be able to understand it.
One of the things you just mentioned is that you have your license in the state of Texas as a private investigator.
Right.
And that gives you the ability to search in areas that if I was doing background searches and didn't have the license that I couldn't legally do. Is that right?
Right. And actually, you do have to be licensed in the state of Texas. Your company has to be a licensed investigations company. If you look at the Texas Bureau of Private Security and check our company out, you'll find it registered. And there's many companies out there that are not licensed properly.
So what you're saying is that there are people out there doing background checks that legally are not supposed to be doing them.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's interesting. So it's buyer beware.
Buyer beware. And one of the things, and we might get into this, you have things you need to ask a background screening company.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about that. Ladies and gentlemen, but right now we need to take a break. And Paul, if you'll stick with us, I'd like to have you come back in the next segment, and let's talk a little bit about that, about how to find the right company for you.
Sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back with you.
Are you planning on growing, expanding, or possibly selling your business? All of these business opportunities require developing strategies and setting goals in order to achieve success. Providing specialized consulting in these and other key business decisions is what Silver Fox Advisors have been doing since 1986. Let us help you today. Call us at 713-343-3718. It might be the most profitable call that you ever make.
Our community's animal shelters cannot absorb accidental litters of kittens and puppies. Approximately 80% of the animals entering our shelters will not make it out alive. Please help be a part of the solution. Please spay and neuter your pets. Many low-cost options are available. Visit texaslittercontrol.org to learn more. That's texaslittercontrol.org. And remember, real Texans don't litter. Please spay and neuter your pets.
Running a business is hard. Pressure to maximize profits and minimize loss continue to grow. Schooley Mitchell of Houston can help. Their independent consultants will ensure you are receiving the best communications and credit card processing services at the best prices. Most importantly, their services are completely risk-free. If they don't find savings for you, there is no fee. Contact Schooley Mitchell of Houston today to find out. Call 832-314-1815 or visit their website at schooleymitchell.com/JM
Taylor Eyes PR works exclusively to get your business noticed. Public relations is how others perceive you and your company. By tailorizing the marketing strategy exclusively to your business, your story is told. Taylor Eyes PR services include networking, social media, blogs, press releases, public appearances, and event planning. To learn about Taylor Eyes PR, call Margie Taylor at 936-828-6881 or visit the website at tayloreyespr.com. My business is tailored to yours.
Are you paying too much for your personal or business insurance? Patricia Cooper Insurance on FM 1488 and Tamina Road is an independent agency that can shop multiple carriers to find the best rates and coverages to fit your specific needs. Call us today at 281-356-9955 and let us go to work for you. Patricia Cooper Insurance, where our customers are treated like family.
This is Rick Schissler, your Silver Fox advisor, and you're listening to the Weekly Business Hour. And in the studio today, we have Paul Marcus of Affordable Searches. And Paul, we've been talking a little bit about the search market and what you can do in background checks and the licensing. But let's talk about one of the things you brought up as we ended this segment. If a company's listening, an individual's listening, and they want to find a search company that would fit their needs, what are some of the steps or things they need to check out to be sure they're finding a company, one that's licensed to do business,
right,
and one that does the thorough check?
Right. Well, number one, the first question you should ask, are you licensed here in Texas? And you'll find that once you ask them that question, they'll fly off the map. Number two, you need to ask them how long they've been in business, and which is important because there's a lot of background check companies that come and go. Number three, you need to know what kind of system they use. I have found personally in the last month a new company or two start up, and their concept is you can use our state-of-the-art technology and push one button and get everything you need. So what they do is they sell them on that, and they let the customers do the work, which is terrible. It's just can't be done. So those are some of the questions. Where do you get your information from? Can you show me what's in this particular database? Do you check here? Do you check there?
Well, you mentioned something about that, where I push a button, which is kind of a thing that happens in our society. And the fact is that you mentioned you have to interpret the data. I mean, you already said that. I mean, I can get a piece of data, and if I'm not trained to what it means, then I either draw the wrong conclusion or have that blank look, right?
Well, there's a couple things associated. People will sell a national check. They call it a national check, but it's not a true national check because it doesn't scan complete throughout the country. They think it is. And once you get information back from the national check, I've had reports that have come back where there may be 300-400 names on there, a common name. So you have to go back through and decide whether it's that person or not. And unless you're doing this every day, I don't think it's going to be easy for someone to know. So what steps do you take? Well, we take the steps of address. We take the steps of, if they have a social, we take the steps also of date of birth. So not a lot of companies will know that. And I just can't see, there's no one-step process in background checks.
Right. You still need the human touch.
You need the human touch. You need the experience touch. And, you need to know that you're getting things right.
Well, one of the things is, and we all hear this every day, in fact, relating to Washington foreign policy about databases, collection of information, but then you got to put the information in a form that's understandable. Right. I mean, there's tons, billions and billions of pieces of data, and I suspect that impacts your business. Just to ask you, kind of look down the road with me for a minute, the next 5 to 10 years, what changes do you see in your business?
I would hope there'd be some tightening up of the business. There's an organization I belong to, the National Association of Professional Background Screeners, and they're there to help the background screening industry. There's like 600 members. So we all would like to find information that's checked out thoroughly and we know we can trust. And so I would imagine just more scrutiny on the industry, and I welcome that.
More management policing, if you will.
Right.
Yeah, that's interesting. Now, I'm in the hiring process. We all should have some kind of process. I always had mine. I wrote it down because I didn't hire every day. That was just part of my job. And I'd pull out my little checklist that I had, my 7 steps, and would check them off. And eventually that became a form that went with each file to make sure each area had been checked. And part of that was a background check.
Right.
Well, let me ask you this. What is, in your opinion, the best time in the hiring process to do the background check? Do you have a preference?
I think the best time would be when you're ready to hire them. You know for sure.
So you've gone all the way through the interview process, and we're down to the...
Absolutely.
Like we want to offer the job, but we got one last thing.
We know this is the right candidate. Let's check his background. If everything works out, then we'll go with him. so you can avoid some of those bad hiring mistakes.
How long does it take on an average to turn around a check that you would recommend?
You can get them anywhere from 1 to 2 or 3 days, usually.
Just depends where they've lived, I assume, because some of this information is a little harder to obtain.
Right. You have to know where to look. A lot of people will do just a county residence. And that's a bad news. I had an instance in New Jersey. A young lady applied at one of my home health customers, and I came up and found 3 pretrial felonies. When my customer asked her about that, she said, "That's not me. That's not me. In fact, a background check was done on me before. Nothing came up." So I got a copy of that background check. Right away I knew what it was. They just checked the county residence. They didn't check the county where she had lived. They did not look on one of those national searches, which did bring up a record. So you therefore go into the courthouse and justify it.
That's interesting. And I would think in a metropolitan area like Houston, people move around a little bit, different counties,
Right.
jurisdictions. Not uncommon for anybody, honest or dishonest or otherwise, but it's important, like you say. I get the impression more and more that human element of knowing where to look and take a piece of information and say, maybe I need to go a little bit further.
Yeah, you need to check these things out. You cannot report anything unless it's checked out at the jurisdiction.
Yeah, that's interesting. Well, let me ask you, one of the things we talked about earlier that probably, hopefully, will cause some people to be motivated, and that's the negligent hiring potential issue of lawsuits or whatnot, because I do think that's a threat in some cases to, depending on the size of the business and the resources, can be a real threat to the solvency and the future of a business. And it's an easy thing, relatively speaking, to do what you do, to get a background check, realizing that it's not 100% guarantee. But one of the things that you put out in some of the information, educational information, were the key practices to reduce negligent hiring. You gave some steps, different things that people should do in their hiring process. Could you share some of those with us?
Well, I think it comes down to running the correct background check. And what you need to do, have each applicant sign the release and waiver form, get explanations for gaps in hiring. Make sure that you can tell that they're telling the truth. Then once you've gone through all of those, then what you need to do is run a complete background check. Not just a flimsy Texas Department of Public Safety search. You need to run a complete background check. Every county they've lived in for the past 7 to 10 years.
In fact, why don't you kind of run us down on that? What are the basics of in your opinion, of a complete background check?
Number one, what we do is we run I mentioned the national search, alias search, which means it picks up records from the social. Then that also brings up a social security trace. Through there, if there's no records, then we run the social trace. We look at everywhere they've lived and determined whether they've lived there in the past 7 to 10 years. Say, for example, I lived here, and I lived in Dallas, and I lived in San Antonio in the past 7 years. All 3 of those jurisdictions should be checked. So it's important. Most of the crimes are committed in the county of residence. Number 4, you run a federal background check, which means federal district court. And those are not included in the regular background checks. So you have to do a completely new federal check. So if you run those steps, you've run everything you need to do, you can do.
So that gives you the information, your opinion, as close as you can. Again, no 100% guarantee, and I respect that because of failures in the database system, if you will, the system. But that will give you, ladies and gentlemen, a thorough check on an individual.
Well, for example, we mentioned negligent hiring lawsuits. If a good lawyer comes into the company and say, "Did you do a background check?" "Yes, we checked the Texas Department of Public Safety." "Well, that's not complete. Why didn't you check the counties they lived in?" "She just moved in from Louisiana. Never been in Texas before, but had crimes in Louisiana. Why didn't you check that?
Yeah, you make a good point. A lot of holes if you don't do that. You offer a number of products and services. Can you give us just a real quick rundown on some of those other products and services?
Well, what we offer is we offer an asset check. And what we do is we have a source we go to that provides you information about the person, assets, liabilities, homes, things like that, to give you a better idea. We also do motor vehicle reports. And basically we just do those two things. People find. We can find people also.
Right. Motor vehicles, what are you looking for?
DWIs, suspended, things of that nature.
Okay, that's interesting. Well, let me ask you as a final question. You 30 seconds. I'm an employer. I've heard the word. I've got the religion, and I want to hire a background checking firm. Why do I hire Affordable Searches over your competitors?
Well, number one, we're licensed. We follow all the rules. Number two, we've been in business a long time. Number three, we want people to call us so we can educate them on what is needed. And number four, we have a lot of satisfied customers. And we're willing and want to work with you.
Well, that's a lot of good reasons. Paul, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. And if people would like to get in touch to get more information or perhaps engage you, what's the best way for them to do that?
You can call us at 1-877-685-6691 or go to the website, www.affordablesearches.com.
And give me that website one more time, please.
www.affordablesearches.com.
Well, again, Paul, I appreciate you coming in today and sharing with us. Ladies and gentlemen, I feel that's an important bit of information. I hope you've paid attention and would consider adding that to your hiring process. Before we leave, I want to leave you with this segment. I want to leave you with an inspirational quote. George Patton, United States General, World War II. Hope you've heard of him. If you're my generation, you have. He said, success is how high you bounce when you hit bottom. Success during the season, the holidays, success throughout the year. We're entering the new year. We always looked for a new reset in our personal lives and in our business lives. So think about success. Success is how high you bounce when you hit the bottom. Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the close of our third segment. I hope you'll stay with us, and when we come back, I will give you the Silver Fox Advisor Tip of the Week. Thank you very much, and we'll see you on the other side.
At Jazzy Junk, volunteers reclaim, restore, and recycle. Jazzy Junk is a non-profit resale storefront where you will discover wonderful, unique finds at very affordable prices on furniture, antiques, books, art, home decor, and more. When you shop Jazzy Junk, you support New Danville, a community for adults with developmental disabilities. We receive new donations daily, so plan a visit to Jazzy Junk today to find that perfect item or gift. Our motto is here today, gone today. So remember to hurry in and shop often for the best selection. Jazzy Junk is located in the outlets at Conroe on Weekline Road and I-45 North. Call 936-441-4500 or visit our website, jazzyjunk.org. That's JUNQUE for more information and store hours.
Running a business is hard. Pressure to maximize profits and minimize loss continue to grow. Schooley Mitchell of Houston can help. Their independent consultants will ensure you are receiving the best communications and credit card processing services at the best prices. Most importantly, their services are completely risk-free. If they don't find savings for you, there is no fee. Contact Schooley Mitchell of Houston today to find out. Call 832-314-1815 or visit their website at schooleymitchell.com/JM Polio.
Are you planning on growing, expanding, or possibly selling your business? All of these business opportunities require developing strategies and setting goals in order to achieve success. Providing specialized consulting in these and other key business decisions is what Silver Fox Advisors have been doing since 1986. Let us help you today. Call us at 713-343-3718. It might be the most profitable call that you ever make.
Tailorized PR works exclusively to get your business noticed. Public relations is how others perceive you and your company. By tailorizing the marketing strategy exclusively to your business, your story is told. Tailorized PR services include networking, social media, blogs, press releases, public appearances, and event planning. To learn about Tailorized PR, call Margie Taylor at 936-828-6881 or visit the website at tailorizedpr.com. My business is tailored to yours.
Are you paying too much for your personal or business insurance? Patricia Cooper Insurance on FM 1488 and Tamina Road is an independent agency that can shop multiple carriers to find the best rates and coverages to fit your specific needs. Call us today at 281-356-9955 and let us go to work for you. Patricia Cooper Insurance, where our customers are treated like family.
You are listening to the Weekly Business Hour, and this is Rick Schissler, your Silver Fox advisor and host. And this is a part of the show where I try to give you a tip, the Silver Fox Advisor tip of the week that you can use in your business, hopefully stimulate a little thinking. Today I'd like to talk about employee retention. Now, this time of year, that may not be a big topic or on your top 10 issues that you're looking at, and I respect that. It's end of the year, lots of things happening at the end of the year. But I wanted to bring this up. I read a wonderful article back last month on November 20th in the Wall Street Journal. Fairly short article, but it caused me to start thinking and do a little more research. And what I'd like to talk about is a tool that's available to help you retain your employees. And hopefully you will be able to utilize this tool. I know if you're a small employer, there just seems like there's not enough hours in the day to do all the things you have to do, but in certain cases, and I would recommend this personally, with key employees, we all have key employees, whether we have 1 or 100. There are key employees and people that we need to make sure we communicate with. And that's the number one issue, I think, why we lose people. And when I talk about losing people, they leave to take another job is the category that I want to focus on, not those that may leave for other personal reasons or whatnot, and not those, of course, that you have to terminate. But I want to talk about the people that leave because they see a better opportunity somewhere else. And a lot of times it's a better work environment. Obviously, there typically will be a little more money, sometimes a great deal, but many times people leave their jobs, and the statistics have proven this time and again, because they're just not happy for various reasons. And so the tool is that was recommended in this article by John Sullivan, who wrote the article, is the sit down and visit just for a few minutes, once or twice a year. And I think you could possibly even wrap this into an annual review if you do formal reviews. But he recommends doing it separately, and I can't find fault with that. But that is to sit down and talk to an employee, obviously before they announce they're leaving, and see if there's anything that they have on their mind about their work and what's going on. He calls this a stay, S-T-A-Y, interview. And it's, again, a short conversation, one-on-one, hopefully in private, not necessarily just walking down the hall, but take a little bit of time, step to the side, sit down, and talk one-on-one. And the idea is that you will discover, the main idea is you'll discover, hopefully, if there are any issues in the workday, in the workplace, other employees, things that you don't realize as the manager, owner of the business that are occurring. And the idea is to identify and reinforce the positive factors, because you're not just looking for negative factors, you're also looking for positive factors. So you're talking in general in a short amount of time. How do they like their job? Are there areas they see that could be improved in the company? Questions like that. Are there things that they're doing they feel are really working and they feel they're contributing? There's just a short list of questions. And the idea is, again, and not to be repetitive, but look for the positives. This is not just a negative. And try to see if there's ways after the interview or even in the discussion, if you can reinforce. You may find an employee has an interest in working in one area that you didn't realize that they have a skill, they have a desire, might even have a passion. And it may be a situation of refocusing what they do. You may need to or want to move them into another position because they really have interest in that position. On the other side of the coin, there can be negative things and possibly things that you could change. And it's amazing, like say the start time is 7 o'clock, and they say, well, my commute's bad. Is there a way I could start at 6:30 and it would be a much easier commute and leave a half an hour early? I mean, all kinds of little issues that we don't realize sometimes as employers are very, very important to the employee. And sometimes we have it within our ability to make a change, to make a tweak that makes that job a lot more positive for that employee. Again, I encourage doing this particularly with your key employees, your good employees. You may not want to talk to everybody because, again, you may not have enough hours, minutes in the day. But I think the stay interview is a great idea. I think Mr. Sullivan is on to something. Again, the idea that you combine it with a year-end annual review, possibly. But I find some interest to the fact that I could pull somebody aside for 5 minutes, give them my undivided attention. If I'm the manager or the owner, that's a powerful message in and of itself. And then I want their feedback. I want to know how the company's doing, if they feel they're being effective. How could they be more effective? Think about those questions. And I think if you'll sit back for a few minutes after hearing this message today, this tip, and think about how that might work for your company, again, feel free to adjust it and change the approach. But I think all in all, there's a positive outcome there for any company, any business with one or more employees, and that is the idea that you do a stay interview long before somebody starts to get disgruntled, unhappy about the day-to-day, and decides to leave, and you lose a key employee. And we just talked to Mr. Paul Marcus about the cost, direct and indirect, of having to replace somebody. So it's huge, besides the idea that you've lost somebody that you wish you could retain. I want to take this opportunity to thank the Silver Fox Advisors, our show sponsors. In the past, you've heard from a number of our show guests how important a mentor has been to them and the success of their business. Every business leader needs someone from time to time to talk to who has the experience and the willingness to give them the unvarnished truth about their business. If you and your business needs a mentor or an advisor, then I encourage you to check out the Silver Fox Advisors. Again, as I said earlier, you can go and get information at their website, www.silverfoxadvisors.org, or you can contact me at 936-647-3776 to learn more. I encourage you to stay in touch with Lone Star Community Radio by visiting our website at irlonestar.com. Stay up on everything that's happening in Montgomery County, not just business, but all the other great things that make our county what it is today. As we close the show today, I want to give a big Lone Star thanks to our sponsors, Patricia Cooper Insurance, Schoolie Mitchell with Jerry Polio, Taylorized PR, Margie Taylor, and the Silver Fox Advisors. I also want to thank Paul Marcus for joining us today and sharing his experience and expertise in background checking. Stay engaged this week. Keep your focus on what counts in your business. Thank you for joining us, and until next week, remember to stay in touch with what is happening in Montgomery County here on Lone Star Internet Radio. Thank you for listening to this week's edition of the Weekly Business Hour, brought to you by the Silver Fox Advisors, the #1 mentoring and business advising group in the greater Houston area. If you have a question or a comment, please contact me on my Facebook page or by email, rick@irlonestar.com.